we're gonna wait, and I need to make sure that everybody's on and can hear me before we get going. Okay, here we go. I don't even see it working, but we're just gonna trust that it's working because that's how we roll here at the Speakeasy Brewer. Looks to be working. All right, well, hey, everybody, just so everybody knows, today is a fun day. I haven't streamed in a while, and it'll probably be a little bit before I stream again, but welcome to the Speakeasy Brewer. Today, we are going to be building a beer recipe from scratch. So if you've never been, or if you've never been to my channel before, or you've always wondered, how is a beer designed? Like, where does it, like, what's the process? Obviously, I brew, and so you get to see the process of brew day. Like, what does it look like from me to go from grain to glass? But before we even get to the grain and the hops and like actually doing brew day, we are creating the recipe beforehand. Something that it's kind of like everything else that you do when it comes to cooking. You have a list of ingredients and a certain amount of time that you put things together and keep it in the oven, that kind of thing. This is that same sort of thing. We're creating a list of ingredients and we're preparing the beer recipe for brew day. So we're determining what grains and how many we're going to be sticking in the beer, which also will help us to determine how much alcohol and color of the beer. We're also determining the hops, what kind of hops are going to be added to the beer. So that's going to determine the bitterness, whether it's going to be floral or citrusy or skunky, that kind of thing. And then we have yeast. And so the yeast is all, the whole purpose of the yeast is one, we want to determine, sometimes the yeast will help us to kind of pan out some flavor a little bit and aroma as well. But that yeast, the whole important part of the yeast is to create the alcohol. So that alcohol is being created by the yeast. The yeast eats the sugar, turns the sugar into CO2 and alcohol. I see one person jumped on. So whoever's on right now, can you please tell me if you can hear me? So I'm not just like talking out of my, just talking without anybody hearing me. That would be great. That'd be wonderful. Thank you. And so yeah, the yeast. So another thing that you want to look at for yeast is you're looking for the efficiency. Oh, sweet. Okay, and it sounds good, Swine Hunter. It's great to see you. I'm sure you're working, so I know you'll be chilling in the back, but I appreciate the heads up. Okay, sweet. Okay, it could be me. I'm gonna fix that right now. Let's just do this. Boop. How about now? That's pretty high, actually. Maybe too loud. Turn this down a little bit. You guys look, yeah, it sounds pretty loud actually. Maybe too loud. Okay, we're just gonna do that. Bring it down a little bit. Okay. 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 Hopefully I got the sound down. I'm sorry about the lighting too. I'm just trying to use natural lighting today. We've got massive rainstorms cruising through Salt Lake today, so it's extra dark outside. And of course, yeah, of course, my lights aren't doing a very, very good job. But anyways, Rob with 2Bs, so great to see you. Man, I'm so sorry I haven't jumped onto any of your streams lately. I pretty much wiped out by the time your streams come on, and it's right around little man's feeding time. So it's always kind of a balance of like, oh, I need to turn it on. Ah. So anyways, I hope you're doing well, man. It's Swine Hunter. I hope Dallas is treating you well as well. So anyways, you guys are all awesome. Thanks for jumping on. It's great to have you here. So yeah, we're going to be doing the beer build, or beer recipe build today. And we're also going to be voting on, depending on how many people jump on, beard. Oh, dude, no worries. It was a 20-minute stream. I was just talking to people about what was going on to make sure that they knew that I was still alive and was still doing beer and that I was still going to be streaming. I had 2 beers explode. They were actually the burning sock saison that you had me do. So I think you all know, and you know for sure, since we had a burning sock saison together, that it was super carbonated, right? So a little more carbonated than I wanted it to be. Well, I had 2 bottles in my kegerator, and it got hot. I unplugged the kegerator because I was sucking up Black Widows, which is why we're calling today's beer the Black Widow Stout. That's where the motivation and inspiration came from. But I unplugged my kegerator, moved around, and it was like 95 that day. The temperature inside the kegerator increased, and the pressure in those bottles just got to a breaking point. I've never, ever, ever had exploding bottles before. I didn't even know that they had exploded until I walked in later after lunch, and I was like, "Why does my garage smell like beer? Specifically Belgian beer. That's kind of a weird, a weird smell to have in here." So I was like looking around, and I couldn't see anything. And then I looked down on the ground right near the kegerator, and there's just a pool of beer all the way around it. And I was like, "Oh no!" So I opened it up, and I had two 22-ounce bottles totally explode. Now I never knew that when a bottle explodes, like it's not just like a, where it's just like a small crack. Like it was like a bomb. There were shards of glass stuck in the side of the kegerator, into the plastic, and there was a couple pieces that had caused very large. I don't know if you want to call it a laceration, since it's not really skin, but like massive cuts and holes in the side of the kegerator. Like bizarre. I'd never seen that before. I mean, there was glass everywhere, and the glass had like exploded into like many mini shards, and it had punctured several cans in there. And so it wasn't just those 2 bottles of beer that had broken and emptied everywhere, but there was like 2 cans of beer that had been punctured, and they had like multiple holes in the cans where the beer was coming out. Yeah, deadly. And I was sitting there going like, holy crap, this is insane. So it was a mess, and it also had shot glass. I had a couple of boxes of Big Sky Brewing beer from a block party we had a while ago, and the glass had gone through the um, cardboard and gotten inside the cardboard. Fortunately, none of those cans had busted because I wanted to make sure I still had some. But anyways, that's what I did. So that was a long story short. But so yeah, they can be deadly. I am so glad that I wasn't holding it, especially because like if it could puncture aluminum, then it could probably puncture plastic and all sorts of stuff. So if I was holding it, I mean, it would have just gone through my hand. It was a mess. But anyways, so that's what it was. So you didn't miss much. It was just me kind of like going through the whole process. But today we are going to be building the Black Widow Stout. And I'm really excited about this because I haven't done a stout in a while. So I'm loading up my beer software. And let's see, this one looks like I haven't even done anything with it. Sweet. Okay, cool. So let me come back. But anyways, it's so great to see you all. Rob Atsubi, Swine Hunter, thanks so much for jumping on. Um, so good, so good. Um, yeah, I guess I'm just gonna get going with this whole thing, shall I? Okay, cool. So, sorry, I literally woke up an hour ago, so maybe less. So here's my beer krug, and inside is coffee. I wish it was a stout because I always like drinking the beer that I'm going to be making, or a style of the beer I'm going to be making, and use that as inspiration and motivation. Trying to figure out like the actual flavor that I'm looking for. All right, so another thing that we're going to do is we're going to start off by looking at our 2021 Beer Judge Certification um, manual. Okay, so the Beer Judge Certification program. It's a program where it's mostly designed for competitions and for beer. So it basically goes through every single style of beer that you can imagine. And hey, what's up, Tion? Welcome, welcome. We did get the sound figured out. I think I might be still a little too loud, so I apologize for that. I'm trying to use my indoor voice just in case. But awesome. It's great to see you all here. So yeah, the beer judge certification program, it's a manual that's designed for every style of beer for competitions. And so for each style of beer, we're going to take a look at that for the stout today anyways. So I'll show you it. But basically the beer judge certification says, okay, this is the style of beer, this is the kind of overall discussion of beer, and then it goes, hey, Koda, it goes through the characteristics and profile that you want for aroma and flavor, color, and then what is appropriate for alcohol content, color, and bitterness as well. So, and it'll even say, okay, well, normally this particular beer, okay, so that's the Hoppy Puppy. Anyways, so it'll also talk about like this style of beer will normally use this type of hop or this type of yeast, that kind of thing. So we're going to take a look at that. And this is where I go to all the time to start a beer, especially if I haven't done one in a while or I wanted to start from scratch. It kind of gives me a base idea. And at the beginning of that manual, it always says, hey, look, this is an outline for all the beers. This isn't like to limit you from being experimental and having fun and creating your own beers. It's designed more for competition, which, by the way, I'm turning in six beers for the beer competition here in Salt Lake City. The judging is happening on the 5th and 6th of October, and the awards are getting sent out on the 6th of October. So we're turning in our German Pilsner, the United German Pilsner from Big Juicy Cat. We're turning in the Sunset IPA, which is the beer I sent off to the wedding, and then we're doing maybe sorry, I'm wrong. It's only going to be like four, um, three different styles of beer, but four different entries. And then I'm going to be turning in two entries for the coffee ale. One we're going to put in, it falls under, weirdly enough, it falls under the vegetable category. And then because I guess it's a bean, so it's considered a vegetable. And then the other one we're going to put under barrel aged beer. So we're going to see if we win anything with that. I'm not quite sure what will happen, but we'll see. Anyways, really hoping for something this time around, but you know what? The competition's pretty stiff this year, so we'll see. If anything, we're just going to learn a ton. Okay. So this is the beer judge certification manual that I use when I turn my beers in. So anyways, let's see. Did you get a light? Get a light more there, right in your face. It's a bit dark. Yes, I know it's a bit dark. I can get more light. If you guys want me to get some more, oh, your son's watching. Hey, what's up? And it's Christian, right? Christian, did I get that right? Oh, awesome, cool. Well, excellent. Well, it's great to see you all here. If it's too dark, I can definitely get a light. I can also like move myself. Um, I don't know. I left my light out in the garage, so you guys just tell me, okay? Um, I will do it if you want me to. Paul Christian. Okay, Paul. Hey, Paul. How's it going? You're so tiny. You're what? A year and 2 months? 18 months? 18 months? Is that correct? It's a double name. Yeah, I like the double names. It's a good solid name. Paul's a good solid name. All right, let's do this. Okay, one last thing before I get going. I know it's dark. Do you need me to get more light? Oh, hi. Okay, cool. I love it. Brubella and Theo are gone. Brew Baby, they went on a play date with some friends of ours, so they aren't here for the stream. So, okay, cool. Awesome. Well, without further ado, um, let's get going with this, shall we? Okay, so let me switch this so you can blah, 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 blah. Let's see, screen capture. Here we go. I'm going to check for comments here off and on. Okay. So let's look at this is the software we're going to be using today. We'll come back to that here shortly. But here's our beer judge certification program. Um, go to the front. It's a style guide, not a manual, style guide. That's what I meant to say. Um, anyways, it's been updated. So we're going to be using the 2021 version of this. And the other reason I'm doing the beer guide today is because um, if this stout turns out, I will want to turn it into a competition later on in the year. So, but you can see right here it has all the different styles and categories overall. And so we have everything from pale bitter European beer, amber malty European lager, dark European lager. So we got everything from Europe. We have standard American beers, um, international lagers, brown ales, Scottish ales, all this kind of stuff, right? So we have a massive collection of beers that we can put in for the competition. And then we even have historical beers, which is kind of fun. The London Brown Ale I thought would be kind of fun to try, and then a Keller beer. I've had Keller beer before. I think it'd be kind of fun to try that at some point. But um, but today we're going to be focusing on right here the American Stout, 20 Bravo. We might even do an Imperial Stout. It just kind of depends. But anyways, let's see. That's on page 36. So let's find out where that is. This is. I'm just gonna guess here. I'm pretty close. That was a pretty good guess. Okay, here we are. Okay, so American Porter and Stout. I don't know if Dr. Hoppenstein jumps on it all today, but if he does, I would be super curious to hear what his thoughts are on Porter and Stout. Now, Porter and Stout, from the information and research that I've done, the words can be used interchangeably, um, and that not isn't an American thing. It comes from Britain, and I believe that they had stouts and porters over in Britain and Ireland, and just happened to be um, a, a style of name. Like they kept using the different names. But like if you look here, it says overall impression for an American porter, a malty, bitter, and often somewhat hoppy dark beer with a balanced, roasted, and frequently chocolatey character. For the American stout, a fairly strong, highly roasted, bitter, hoppy dark stout. The body and dark flavors typically are typical of stouts with a more aggressive American hop characteristic. Okay, so we might even want to do that. A porter actually. And then here for Imperial Stout, it's traditionally an English style, but it's currently much more popular and widely available in America and internationally, where it is a craft beer favorite, not a historical curiosity. Overall impression is an intensely flavored, very strong, very dark stout with a broad range of interpretations. Roasty, burnt malt with a depth of dark or dried fruit flavors and a warming, bittersweet finish. Despite the intense flavors, the compounds need to meld together to create a complex, harmonious beer, not a hot mess, sometimes only accomplished with age. Okay, I'm going to stick with the stout. That just sounds like I need to stick there. Okay, so I'm going to check back for comments, make sure I'm not missing y'all. Okay, cool. So as you could see, like there's three styles that are pretty close to each other. Imperial Stout is a much stronger beer. Now, yeah, the stout sounds like what I want to do. Okay, so let's read this out. And again, remember, I told you it's going to tell you all the characteristics that you want for this specific style of beer. You have aroma, you have appearance, flavor, mouthfeel. There's some comments on the particular beer. There's a little bit of history, and then there's some characteristic ingredients that they're going to use. And then here's some style and vital statistics, which are like color, bitterness, alcohol by volume, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, anyways, here's what we're looking at. Oh, went too far. Sorry. So, the overall aroma for a stout that we're trying to shoot for, and again, the only reason I'm doing this is I'm kind of using this guideline as an anchor for the style of beer I'm going to be doing, especially if it's a beer I've never done before. I drink a lot of that style of beer before I brew, even before I even work on a recipe or while I'm working on the recipe, so I can be like, okay, well, I want a little bit of like, and if it was a stout, if I was drinking beer at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd be drinking several styles of stout. I'd want to be like, okay, well, do I want some chocolatiness to it? Do I want some coffee? What are the flavors that I'm wanting to get? Do I want roasty, nutty, that kind of thing? Um, and then aroma too. Remember, aroma is an important part of this whole process. So we have moderate to strong roast aroma, often with a roasted coffee or dark chocolate quality, burnt or charcoal aromas are acceptable at low levels. Medium to very low hop aroma, often with a citrusy or resiny character. Medium esters are optional, light alcohol optional. Should not seem sharp, acrid, or acidic. Okay, so the big thing we were looking for is this moderate to strong roast aroma with coffee and chocolate. Um, and it's interesting because it says burnt to charcoal aromas are acceptable at low levels. I'd say yes, but it's hard. So once you start getting to these darker beers, we start playing with more specialty malt. Okay, so obviously when I did my IPA or my Mexican lager, or when I've done some other like amber ales, I'm playing with some specialty malts there, but we're not looking at really super dark specialty malts. We're looking at specialty malts that are going to add a little bit of red or copper hue or amber to the beer, and it's going to add more like caramely, crystal, malty flavor to that beer. Now, once we start stepping into this arena of stout and porter, then you're starting to play around with specialty malts that are much darker. They've been in the kiln a lot longer, so they are dark, like black. There's one that's called Black Patent Malt. I mean, it is black, black. It almost is the color of charcoal. And so when we start playing with these darker, more roasted malts, specialty malts, when it comes to the beer recipe, we want to use less of those malts because you don't need a whole lot of those malts to give you the color that you want or the flavor that you want. Now, if you start stepping into having too much of those malts, that's when you're going to start running into this sharp, acrid, acidic, burnt and charcoal aromas that kind of go beyond what's acceptable. So you want to watch out for that, and we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. I know I've talked about it a little bit in the past with other beers, and I think I even had like a beer recipe kind of overall discussion on when you're building a recipe for beer. So we'll go into depth of that a little bit as well. Appearance, we want it to be jet black in color, although some may appear very dark brown. Large, persistent head of light tan to light brown in color, usually opaque. Um, Flavor, moderate to very high roasted flavors, often tasting of coffee, dark or bittersweet chocolate, or roasted coffee beans. Should not be prominent. Sorry, may taste slightly burnt coffee grounds, but this character should not be prominent. Low to malt, medium malt sweetness, often with rich chocolate or caramel flavor. Medium to high bitterness, low to high hop flavor, generally citrusy or resiny. Medium to dry finish, occasionally with a light burnt quality. Low esters optional, but light but smooth alcohol flavor is optional. Okay, so again, when we're making a beer like this, these are the flavors that we're hoping to add to it. Now we can play around with this. I mean, again, this is just a guideline. It makes me think of Pirates of the Caribbean, where it's like it's more like guidelines. So it's a guideline. We could go off this thing and just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna wing it, and I'm just gonna make it like super chocolatey, super dark chocolate, or super coffee. I'm gonna just, you know what? Let's just throw chocolate in there as well as a chocolate malt. Let's just throw it all in there. You know what? Let's pour some whiskey in there. Let's pour some oak chips in there. Let's whatever. We could do whatever we want, right? Um, so there's that. I'm gonna take a quick break. Come back. Okay, sweet, awesome, lurking, cool. No worries. Rob, I know it's work day, so no pressure there. Thanks for lurking. I appreciate it. I love that you guys just lurk, especially when I'm just in the back doing my thing. I've had to lurk on y'all's channels too at some point in time. So you guys are amazing. I miss you all. I wish I was still streaming often, but Tion, what it's like. You know what it's like. Oh, sorry. And you know what? I realized you said 8 months. I was close. I said 18 months. I thought he was older, but 8 months. So, anyways, little Paul Atreides. Um, anyways, mouthfeel. Okay, medium to full body, can be somewhat creamy, can have a bit of roast-driven astringency, but this character should not be excessive. Medium to high carbonation, light to moderate strong alcohol warmth, but smooth and not excessively hot. Okay. Excessively hot. So no peppers? What? No, I'm joking. I don't even know what that means. Okay, so medium to full body. So I was thinking about playing with this because I love the medium to full body because medium to full body means it's going to be pretty sweet. It's going to be very pleasant. Okay. But I was thinking since it's a Black Widow Stout, I kind of wanted this to be kind of like a sharper beer, kind of like a Black Widow bite, which I didn't get, thank God. But I'll tell you what, my garage was like a thing of nightmares almost. Almost. I've seen so many Black Widows. We have so many Black Widows. I don't like Black Widows. I don't even know why I'm calling this the Black Widow Stout. I feel like I shouldn't be creating a beer that's named after like a thing of nightmares. But anyways, um, I bought myself a brand new shop vac and I just went in the garage and I just started sucking up everything and looking for egg sacs, which I didn't find any, which doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means that I haven't been able to find them. And this Black Widow that I sucked up was in the back of the kegerator. So you have the front of the kegerator where the door is, swings open, and then you have the back. And in the back, down at the bottom, you have your refrigerator compressor. You have your uh, the coolant. I can't remember Freon, where the Freon goes, and then there's a whole bunch of other wires that are electrical and stuff like that. Well, this whole thing where all the compressor is, it's like a hollowed out part of the kegerator. Okay, and then for whatever reason, this hollowed out part of the kegerator also has lips. So like what I mean by that is that it not only does it go in, but there's like metal. So I had to like reach around and like use my finger. I had gloves on to find to because I couldn't suck it out. Black Widow webs are insanely strong, and Black Widows are insanely strong. And when they want to hold on to something, they're going to hold on to it. So I was sitting there sucking it up. Nothing was coming out. I'm like, I know you're back there. I even used my camera on my phone. I'm just like, where are you at? Where are you at? I'm gonna kill you. And so I ended up reaching back in there, and she was in the very top back corner, like as small as she can get, and ended up poking her. And I feel bad killing all things, so I felt bad, but I didn't want her in there. So I don't know if she's got an egg sac in there. But anyways, it was a thing of nightmares. Yeah, when I killed her and she fell, oh, I jumped and like had to take a break from the garage. It was a nightmare. Anyways, okay, comments. Breweries express individuality through varying the roasted malt profile, malt sweetness and flavor, and the amount of finished hops used. Generally has bolder roasted malt flavors and hopping than other traditional stouts except imperial stouts, becoming increasingly hard to find. Yeah, I feel like you're getting more porters and imperial stouts for sure. That's interesting. History. So modern craft beer and homebrew style that applied a more aggressive American hopping regime to strong traditional English or Irish stout. The homebrew version was once known as a West Coast stout, a common naming scheme for a more highly hopped beer. And some characteristic ingredients, we have common American base malts, which would be your pale malt, your Pilsner malt, and then obviously it's talking about American variations, but you can also do like Vienna malt or like Munich malt or Maris Otter, which is a British, but those are the type of malts that we're wanting to use as a base. There's yeast and hops, obviously, varied use of dark and roasted malts, as well as caramel type malts. Adjuncts or additives may be present in low quantities to add complexity. So for those of you who are wondering what an adjunct is, an adjunct basically is an additive, and an adjunct is anything that's not grain, yeast, or hops. Okay, so that's fruit, chocolate, coffee, oak chips, that kind of thing. Vanilla beans. So that's one thing to consider. So when I say the word adjunct, or I'm not going to be saying additive, I'll say adjunct. Feel free to ask if you need a reminder, but that's what I mean by talking about an adjunct. And it could be even sugar too, right? Like when I made the Saison, I used turbinado sugar to add a little bit of sweetness to the beer and a little bit of color. And it also, the turbinado sugar, the reason I use that one in particular is it had kind of a rum flavor. Now, what I learned is you don't want to put a lot of that in because it was too sweet. Delicious, but too sweet. Okay. Anyway, some vital statistics. So international bittering units, that's what IBU stands for. it's 35 to 75. So it can range from very light on the bitterness. Well, I guess it would be more medium bitterness to strong on the bitterness. Um, and then SRM, which is color. So it's 30 to 40. That's pretty dark for a beer. And we're using like the color of the beer itself. So when we talk about the grains, we're looking at SRM again. Sometimes you'll see lava bond. That's kind of interchangeable in terms of they're two different coloring measurements, but they're used the same and different at the same time. So like when you're looking at lava bond, when we're looking at maybe using black patent malt, I mean that's a lava bond of 450, 350 to 400, 450. I mean that's really really high, really 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 dark. And so our beer, the SRM, it's gonna still be really really dark, but we're looking at 30 to 40 SRM, and we're not using lava bond. And then our average alcohol by volume is 5.0 to 7.0. But I'm going to tell you right out the gate that since it's a Black Widow Stout, we are going to make it extremely strong. I want it to be like a Black Widow bite. So there's that. Okay, let's pull this back. It's all California's fault. I didn't even know that. We also, a couple years ago, we also had a brown widow infestation in our garage, and obviously we didn't kill them all because I found more brown widows. And I think you're right because brown widows are also not native to Utah. They're actually from like California and the southern part of the United States. They look like black widows, except for they're kind of like they have white, tan, and brown uh, coloring, and their legs are like long, like a black widow, but they're brown. They're also a thing of nightmares, and they're still widows. You can see down on their abdomen. It's not a red abdomen, like a red hourglass. It's kind of like a brown one, and still scary. Um, and we had a ton of those. And the crazy thing about brown widows versus black widows is black widows will lay, I think they will lay like 1 to 2 egg sacs a year, and each egg sac is like 5, 10 spiders, I think. Still terrifying. But get this, brown widows, dude, brown widows, they will have upwards to 5 egg sacs in 1 year, each egg sac about 20 spiders. Okay, when we had our brown widow infestation in our garage, I am not joking when I say this. Again, thing of nightmares. Thing of nightmares. Okay, we killed 180 spiders. Okay, adult spiders, like big ass spiders. They were hiding under things. Sorry, I shouldn't say that word. I forgot Paul. Paul, sorry, Paul. Don't use that word. Oh, you probably don't even know English yet. That's good. That's good. Okay. Um, got to keep it rated PG here, um, or earmuffs. Anyways, so we had found all these egg sacs. I think we killed like 60 egg sacs. So I'm not even doing the math because that's going to get me all scared. I don't want to be scared right now. Okay, I can definitely hear myself. How's this sound? Is it too loud or is it like reverberating? I don't even know. You guys let me know. I think it's going good. Okay, and the light should be getting better. Is it getting better? Okay, cool. I'm gonna check back here shortly, but let me share with you the beer software that I use. Okay, here we are. So this is Beersmith 3. I bought this, what is it, a year ago or so, because I was going to be working on a brewery with some dudes that ended up not happening. We were going to call it Hideout Brewing. One of my buddies still really wants to make it happen, so who knows, it might still be a thing, but we'll see. Anyways, so the great thing about it, let me just kind of show you what we have right here. So this is uh, our beer recipe. Okay, this is where we're going to put all of our ingredients right here in this table, and obviously we can name it. We can choose the size of the beer, and then we can figure out all the other details. Over on this side is where we're going to click to add our fermentables, which are things like grains, sugar, that kind of thing. And then we have our hops and miscellaneous. Miscellaneous would be adding our adjuncts. So maybe like a Werflock tablet to help clarify the beer, which with the stout, we're not even going to use that. We're going to add sugar and other things like that. So that's where that's what a miscellaneous would be, or fruit, whatever. Adding yeast, and then I'm not going to add water. So adding water isn't like saying we're going to do a 5 gallon batch, but we're going to add more water. It's not that. What we're doing with that is we're adding um, a new water ingredient to this recipe. Um, so it's basically changing the water profile. Now, when I'm doing a beer that's just a regular ale, we have a artesian well here in Salt Lake City, and that water profile is absolutely perfect for all the ales that I've ever done. So I just go get the water there, um, and it works out well every single time. Now, when I've done the lagers, like the Mexican lager or the German Pilsner, when I do the lagers, I always start with reverse osmosis water, and then we add all of the minerals and salts to the water um, to make it the profile that we want to kind of really pull out that dry, crisp, clean um, lager style flavor that you're looking for. Okay. Down here we have one, you can choose your style guide, which will do the American Stout. And then we have our estimated gravity, and I'll kind of go into that a little bit. For those of you who watch my channel, you kind of have an idea of what that already means. But for those of you who might be new or see this later that are new and you're like, what the frick is that? I'll tell you what that all means. And then we have our bitterness, and it's a slide. So if it's in the red, if it's on the lower end of the red, it's too low. If it's on the higher end, it's too much. If it's in the yellow, it's kind of on the borderline. We kind of want it to be in the green. But I'll tell you one thing, the alcohol by volume, it's going to be in the red today. We're going to shoot for about 9%. So that's going to also give us a different challenge because yeast can only handle so much alcohol before it kills them. So we're going to have to use a special yeast that can handle up to 10% alcohol. But we're going to amp it up. It's going to be great. So anyways, we're doing that. And then down here, we have our mash profiles. And this is where you're going to be choosing your medium body, full body, or light body mash profile. And I explained that during brew day, but I can explain it if you guys want me to throughout the stream today. So I'm going to jump back real fast, make sure I'm not missing anything. Sweet. No, there are no comments. Cool. All right. So before we get going on this, we're going to find our American Stout. Boom, boom. Okay. And again, one thing we can do is we can pull it up, and it has the beer judge, the guidelines here, right? Right. It's telling us, okay, you want the color between here and here, your alcohol between here and here, your bitterness, and it shows you the color. So look at that jet black. I mean, it's not going to look that black, but it's going to be pretty dark. And it has all the stuff that we already went over. So that's what you can always refer back to. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to do a 5 gallon batch, which is 19 liters for all your European folk. And let's see here. All right, so we're going to just start off with we're going to name it, right? Black Widow Stout. A thing of nightmares. Okay, so one thing that I want to do, let's see if I'm going to do this. Let's go back to this live screen because I want to explain something to you guys. If I can find some paper here. Okay, so I told you a little bit about when you're coming up with the balance of beer, right? When you're coming up with the ingredients and the percentages of what you need. So we talked about how you want your base malts and then you want your specialty malts, okay? And so I'm just going to copy this photo that is in Randy Mosher's book, which is basically the Mastering Homebrewing. And I'm just going to do this. Okay. So this will be like, I'm going to write it out real fast. Okay. And then I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so you have your overall beer. Okay, so in Randy Mosher's picture, he has the overall color. Like this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so I don't have any color right now, but just imagine like our stout is going to be nice and black. Okay, nice and dark. But you see on the other side, I've got it broken down into three categories. Okay, so we have our base malts, and then we have our specialty malts, which break. So it's the 70 to 80 percent of the beer should be base malts, and then the last 10 to 15 of the beer should be specialty malts. And that's more for like this type of beer that we're doing, the stout. Okay. Um, so yeah, so for a stout, so it'll be a little bit different when we're talking about lagers or pilsners or other ales like ambers or IPAs. That is going to change a little bit. But for today's beer, what we're going to be looking at is this balance. Okay, so 70 to 80% base malt. Oh my gosh, it's all in reverse. And then we have specialty malts, which will be 10 to 15%. Okay, and again, remember when I talked about making this stout, just remember that when we're going to be using some really dark malts like black patent malt, pale chocolate malt, that kind of thing. And we have talked about that if you use too much, that's when you're going to start getting into the um, you're going to start getting into that regime where it is acrid, it's bitter, it's ashy and burnt. Um, yeah, awesome. Thanks. I'm happy that helped. I'll try and do that more. Um, and so we don't want that. It's going to start becoming too unpleasant if we go too far beyond outside of that realm of 10 to 15% of the grains. Okay, so our base malts. Remember, we talked about that already. Our base malts are pale malt, pilsner malt. We've got Vienna, Munich, and Maris Otter. So we're looking for um, really light malts, and the base malt is where we're going to get most of our alcohol from um, for the beer, and then everything else is going to be more for color and aroma. Okay, and flavor, color, aroma, flavor. Okay, but everything up front. So like when I do an IPA, like that bready, grainy, biscuity flavor that comes from a lot of the base malts. If you start getting into the realm where it's kind of sweet, malty, maybe a little bit caramely, that's where you're going to start getting specialty malts. So, and that's another thing too with a light beer like an IPA. It's a kind of a challenge at times um, to not put too much specialty malts in, because for that style you don't want to be super sweet. You don't want an IPA to be super sweet, nor do you want a lager to be super sweet. So you want to add that specialty malt in to kind of give it that copper amber um, orangey color that you might find in a Meritzen or amber ale or IPA. But you don't want to add so much that it starts getting too sweet, right? Now you can add it and make it sweet, but if you make it super sweet, you also need to add some hops um, to kind of balance out the sweetness with the bitterness. Just kind of depends on what your style of beer is. Again, when you start home brewing, you can do whatever you want with your beer because you're going to be the one drinking it. So you just do what you want. What you want when you want, how you want, and you drink what you want when you want, how you want. Want. This is why I fly planes and brew beer and not rap. Okay, cool. So we're going to do pale malt first. And since we're going to do good old fashioned US two row, um, and I don't really care. Like it's got the brands here. I don't care. I basically downloaded every single grain that they had, and it's too many. So it can be overwhelming. So don't get overwhelmed by this. I'm just going to tell you that here's a US. We're going to US two row pale malt. Okay. And we're going to add, let's start with 10 pounds. That's a lot. But boom, there's our 5.2% alcohol. Might have to add a little bit more. But so over here on the right side, let me point you. Wait, hold on. You can't even see what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we added 10 pounds of pale malt two row. I, I, are you guys hearing echoes or is it just me? Maybe I'm talking too loud. I don't know. Uh, okay, I am talking too loud. Give me 1 second. Let's fix this, shall we? We're gonna fix that. Okay. Anyways, okay. There we go. Still bad. Okay. Anyways, here we are. So we added our 10 pounds of pale two-row US, and then here we have our color right there. It's nice, light coloring, brilliant. Looks like a beginning of a great beer. Now we're going to add some more fermentables. So remember, going back to the style guide, when we go to our flavor, so we have aroma, appearance, mouthfeel. Remember, we're looking for medium to full body. Where's the flavor? Did I pass that? I probably did. Flavor, moderate to very high roasted flavors, often tasting of coffee, dark and bittersweet chocolate, or roasted coffee beans. Okay. And it says low to medium maltiness. So we want to make sure that we don't have a whole lot of maltiness to this thing. So one thing that I really like to do is feel like, I think Vienna, which is also base malt. Let's just take a look at that real quick. Vienna. So that's pretty light. But again, Vienna malt is more of a base malt, kind of like I said. Like if you're going to be doing like a Meritzen or something like that. There's this is the 20 lava bond. See, it's 20 lava bond. It's a higher color content. It's soft toffee caramel malty. Golden hues. This malt adds flavors unique to Vienna style lagers and Belgian style abbey ales. It has flavor. That has flavor. That what? Somebody didn't even finish what they were gonna say. Okay. Well, let's do this. I think it's is it Karamunic? Karamunic. Here we go. We got our Karamunic. Yep, that's what I want. Karamunic Wireman. It's a German crystal malt. Adds maltiness, body, aroma, and color. But you can see over here we have our color, and it shows us. It says 71 SRM, so it's gonna be pretty dark. It's not gonna be super dark, but it's getting pretty close, right? And it's gonna add some more red hue to it. So let's do. We can, and then regular Karamunic malt. It says copper-colored malt used in Belgian ales and German bocks, but it adds a nice caramel. So I'm gonna do this. Let's do 3 pounds. So you can see, made it nice and brown over here, kind of like a reddish brown. So we're starting to get somewhere. We're now at 6.7% alcohol. We have 13 pounds of grain. Now we can start playing around with color, okay? So even though Karamunic malt is technically a specialty malt, it's one of those ones where it's a fine line, where it's a specialty malt that's not a fine line. It is a specialty malt. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's a specialty malt. It's nothing crazy. It's not going to add a huge amount of color, as you can see. It did change the color quite a bit, but it's not going to add, what did it say? It added like 1.7% alcohol. So I mean, it's a nice balance between, it's like a good transition malt where it could kind of fall under specialty malt in terms of the amount of alcohol you get, or like the sugar content that you're going to get from it, but it's going to add more color and flavor to it. So it's kind of like that nice transitional specialty malt, where that's going back to this. If you can see it still, remember our overall beer is the coloring is based on our base malt, our specialty malts, which are 10 to 15%. Again, this is for stout only, okay? So we could almost say that this Karamunic malt is probably going to be right around that full 10%. But we're going to keep adding more grains to it because that's what we do. Pale malt. Pale chocolate malt. That's what I want. Chocolate. Pale chocolate malt. And let's just start with 1 pound. Woo, look at what 1 pound does. See how it turned jet black? So we got our color based on that. But that's too much. That's too much. That much of the pale chocolate malt is going to start to get a little bananas. So it says lightly roasted malt for lighter notes of roasted nuts, coffee, and chocolate. Okay, so we want that, but you can see it's 7.1% of the overall grain bill. Okay, so these two I'm going to change up a little bit, but I'm just trying to get like a base idea of what kind of grains I want. So let's go back in here. I don't want that. I want to do let's do 0.5 pounds, half a pound. Okay, so that's 3% of the beer. So now you can see if your color is shown up like mine, it's now a nice dark brown color. Okay, um, it's on the verge of going jet black, but it will go jet black after our next one. And so we're still at about 6.9% alcohol by volume. We're going to amp this up a little bit. And before I continue, let me come back. Nope, no questions. Good. If you have any questions, you can holler at me. I think there's some emotes or some sort of thing that you can do that will draw my attention. Otherwise, I'm going to check back every like 5 minutes or so. And this is just the long part of the stream. Once I'm done with this actual recipe, then it'll go by fast. Black patent. Why is it not on here? Black pearl. Maybe that's a version of black patent. I don't know. What does it say? Made in Chile, which is not the one we're going to be doing. Okay, crystal malt maybe. 120 lava bond, very dark, 120 SRM, dark crystal malt. That might be the one. No, what the heck? Extra dark crystal malt. Okay, so I don't know why black patent isn't on here. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We want to do crystal malt, not crystal malt. We want to do color. Look at these things. Whew, that is some intense black malt. This is what we want. So identical in flavor with high-end chocolate malt, but higher in color, produced by roasting kiln-dried malt to temperatures of 240 degrees Celsius. That's freaking hot. For slightly longer periods, more than... No, I don't want to add that. I just want to look at it, edit details. For a longer period of time than regular chocolate. Water is used to extend the roasting time and for quenching and cooling at the end of the roast to prevent combustion. Oh, that's dark. That is dark. Do I really want to add this one? No, I don't want to add that one. That's too, nope, that's too dark. Delete. Delete. Ban that. All right, I'm not going to go that dark. That's bananas. Let's get down. Okay. Black malt, Sugar Creek. I think this might be the one. A heavy roasted, almost burnt flavor with a dark color, smoother and a little less dry than roasted barley. That might be what we want. That black malt from Sugar Creek. And we don't have Sugar Creek available to us here. We got our Carafa, chocolate malt, dark beers, alts, Bach beers for color and aroma. That's kind of nice too. And then we have basic chocolate malt. Suitable beer style include mild, bitter, IPA, brown ale, stout, porter. Kind of want a little bit of that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do dark malt. We want roasted. And we're going to do what was the other one? We got down to 550, I think. And we're going to do the Carafa. We're going to add that too. Okay, so I'm just adding them all just because I want to, and we'll change this out a little bit. Okay, so the pale chocolate malt, light roasted malty, lighter notes of roast. Okay, so we're still going to do 0.5 pounds of that because, why did I get rid of that? 0.5. Oops, not 4.5, 0.5. Okay, 0.5. And then we're going to take these down. We're not going to do that. We're going to do like 0.3 of the black malt. Now we're going to do 0.25. We want it to be pretty low. Remember, it has to be less than 5%. And then our Carafa, we might do 0.25 as well. Okay. And I'm going to turn this into, let's try 12. Okay, so now we're looking at this. So right here where it says percentages. So right here we have 1.6, 1.6, and 3.1. So that's 3, 4, 5, 7. So it's about 7%, 6 or 7% of our uh, grain bill is these specialty malts, the darker ones that are going to add that color and they're going to add that chocolate, roasty, nutty flavor. And then we have our Caraminic malt, which is about 18%, which I need to bring this down a little bit. So I might do 2.5. We don't need that much. So we're right around 8% alcohol. We might not be able to get to 9%. Okay, so I could get to 9%. So here's what we would do. Instead of adding more grain, I would add like malt extract, like dry malt extract. So for a good rule of thumb, either for liquid malt extract or dry malt extract, a good rule of thumb is for 1 pound of that malt extract, that's 1% alcohol by volume. So here's what we could do. So I feel like this is a pretty good balance for the beer. Some things we can add if we wanted to, which we don't need to. We can add wheat for head retention, or we can, and that would be carafoam too. Carafoam is a German style grain that helps with head retention. We can also add oats to this to make it more smooth, creamy mouthfeel, but I don't really want to add oats to it because I'm still, again, Black Widow. I'm thinking dry. I'm thinking strong. I'm thinking slightly bitter. I'm thinking not sweet or smooth on the mouthfeel. I'm thinking like this needs to almost taste like a black lager or something along that line. And if Dr. Hoppenstein's listening, he's probably going like, ew, that sounds disgusting. Add glitter, make it sparkle. Okay, why I never see you weighing ingredients live? Do you prepare it before stream or do you order exact the proportion? Okay, so good question, Tion. I'll come answer it. I appreciate the question too, by the way. Um, yeah, so most of the beers that so I would remember early on and when I was like just starting streaming, I was doing like I would do multiple streams, right? So we would do a beer review, we would do a uh, beer recipe build, and then we would do brew day. Okay, so that's what we were kind of originally doing, and then I kind of broke it down into like I'm doing 2 brew days a month, and then I kind of got rid of the beer review and the beer build or beer recipe build. And I don't know why I did that. I think it was just timing. But yeah, so normally the recipes that I do create, I create beforehand, and then I just go to the store and find the ingredients, and I measure it out as close to uh, as close as possible to the amounts that I have in the software. So yeah, so I do prepare it before stream, and yeah, it's important for me to weigh the ingredients and like weighing the balance, like what's the proportion of the ingredients. It's super important. So yeah, most of the time I do it beforehand. But if you like this, when I do other styles of beers like IPA, I can show you guys if this is something that you want to see more of. I can do that as well because here's the thing. Now that I've got a kiddo, it does make it hard to do more brew days. So that means less content. So I can do things. What I would like to do is I want to do a beer review. Uh, yeah, okay. I just show the little packages with hops. Okay, yeah, I do. Okay, I'll have to show. I'll have to see if I can stream myself getting the grains. I'll have to see if they would allow me to do that. I'll just be like, all right, here we are. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm getting grains and I'm showing everybody how I do it. It's kind of fun too because when you go get the grain, you can get a little bit in your hand and you can put it in your mouth and chew it. And you can kind of get a good idea of what the flavor is going to be that you're going to get from the grain. Um, Okay. Okay. Good. Well, I'll do this again. So now you can kind of see this is how you build a stout recipe. Um, And when we get to IPAs or lagers or whatever, like whatever we do next, I'll try and do this again, and I'll break it down even more for like, okay, this is a stout. Maybe I should write this so it says stout. This is stout balance for beer. Okay. Um, make it sparkle. Okay. Yeah. And so here's the other thing too. So in terms of the program, so some of the grain that I'm looking at, so I'm sitting there going like, oh, where's the black patent? So that's one of the malts that we have available here in the United States. I think it's a U.S. It's either U.S. or British grain. Um, it's a very dark kilns style malt, adds a really strong roasty, nutty flavor to it, and so that's what I was looking for, but it didn't have it in the program for whatever reason. So there's that. So sometimes the grains that I'm putting in the program aren't going to be exactly the grains that I'm going to be getting from the brew store or the beer supply store. So I just kind of have to play around with that. And so I try to take good notes, like, okay, well, these are the hops or the grains that I did get. So that would be the only thing that I have against Beersmith currently, is that the grains and that they have available. There's so many different variations of the grains, and it could be my fault for downloading everything, but they're missing some grains as well. So if there's a program out there that is a better, like more up to date version of like what's available in terms of grains, I'm gonna have to do some research and find out, because um, having a more up to date version and having all the potential grains available that are more likely to be the ones that I'm going to find and use would be extremely helpful. Um, anyways, but this program overall, it gives me a pretty good general idea of what my overall beer is going to do, and so far it hasn't let me down. So as long as it works, I'll play around with it. Um, so yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I need to do some more beer reviews. I need to do a little bit. Big Juicy Cat uh, told me about a cocktail that I needed to try, and it was coffee liqueur, um, and then it was coffee, and I think it was Bailey's for uh, making a coffee, like an espresso cocktail. So I would like to do that as well. So have you guys build recipes for me to try, either beer recipes or cocktail recipes. You say, okay, this is the cocktail that I made. Um, so what we'll do is at some point in time, we'll just have people start using bits. So if you use a certain number of bits, then you create the cocktail, and then I have to go and make it. As long as I have the ingredients, I'll make it right then and there, and then I'll drink it. But if I don't have the ingredients, I'll go get them, and then I'll do it on my next stream. But what I'd like to also do is, October is coming up, and in Germany, I don't know if they do this, but it's what's it called? Uh, I can't even think of the name right now. I'm not that tired. Come on. Um, there's Dry January, and then there's gosh, what I just thought of it earlier too. Anyways, yeah, Halloween. Yeah, yes. I'm talking about like a month where you don't have any alcohol. Halloween, Thanksgiving. Yeah. Why can't I think of it? I literally was thinking about it earlier today. Dry January and Swine Hunter, October. You're great, Tion. You're like in October, it's Oktoberfest, Thanksgiving, and Halloween. All the things that you'd want to be drinking. I don't know why I can't even think of the name. Anyways, um, yeah. Oh, that thing. Yeah. I don't know why I can't think of it right now. I'm gonna look it up real fast. Um, let's see what it's called. Sober October. That's what it is. Sober October. You do think, whatever. You come up with great ideas. Drink. Yeah. Oh, you don't drink anyway. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, you're hilarious. Yeah. So dry January and sober October. So I think for sober October, one of the things that we will be doing, I could still brew beer during sober October. But what we will be doing is we're going to be creating mocktails. And I've been coming up with some ideas for mocktails because here's the thing: for people who don't drink alcohol, I still want them to come to my channel because I have some ideas of things I would like to try and test that would help people who don't drink, like you, Tion, or don't want to have as much alcohol. I want to come up with ideas for them as well. So I want this channel to be able to reach out into all of them, all of y'all. Um, you know what? Hey, here's the honest truth. Beer is good. Wine is good. Liquor is good. It's all good. But here's the honest truth. It's poison. We all know it's poison. It's delicious poison. We know what it does to our bodies, especially in a large amount. So for us to sit there and be like, it's not poison, it's just dumb. It is. It's poison, but it's a artistic poison. That's what I like to say. But in moderation, and it's better for your health, anyways. I mean, remember when you were like, we should take photos of ourselves and post on Discord and be like, this is me, this is who I am. I was like, that. You know what? I could tell. When you don't have as much alcohol, there's more youth, and there's like a lightness in your face, and there's like you just don't look as weathered. So it's good. Keep it up. It's good. It's good for you. It's good for Paul. It's good for everybody. But yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyways, okay. So for Sober October, we're gonna do some mocktails just to give people some ideas of things that they can do um, to enjoy a beverage with friends at a bar and not have to drink. We want to give people an option for that. And I have an idea of something else that I want to do that I'm going to reveal in Sober October, and it should be fun. And I'd like to brew this beer, this Black Widow Stout, by the end of this month. And then I'm going to shave this bad boy because as much as I love having the dad beard, it's pretty sweet. It's also not something I'm used to, and it's like getting in my lips. So we're gonna vote on that here shortly. Anyways, let's get back to this. We're getting off track. Jeez, Louise. Okay. Okay, so we did 2.5 pounds of Caraminic malt. We did 12 pounds of pale malt, which is a total of 15.5 pounds. Okay, if we wanted to amp this up a little bit, let's just do this. We're gonna add some. We're gonna add. Oh no, it's not fermentable. Dry malt. Dry. Okay, here we go. Dry malt extract. We don't I say dry malt extract isn't going to add a whole ton, but let's just do this. 1 pound of that. Boom. It brought us up to about 8.9%. So this would be strong. So we'll add that. I've got a little bit extra that I can use. And the nice thing about dry malt extract is it's not going to add a whole ton of flavor. It's not going to change anything. Again, it's more of a base malt. So for those of you who don't know what malt extract is, so when I do on brew day, right, we have all of our grains and we create the mash. And remember when I Vorlauf, or I take that sample of that of the grain and or not the grain, but a sample of the wort that comes out that's after it's done steeping, and it's like that really nice, good-looking color, and it's kind of like sweet tea. So that's like what malt extract is. But what they do is they just distill it down and dehydrate it down to a powder or a liquid, and it's just all of that flavor, all of that sugar, all of that color into a liquid or a powder, and they just distill it down. So that's what a malt extract is. So by adding this malt extract, it's powder and it's sugar, and it's just going to add literally like 1% alcohol to it. So it's not going to change the flavor too much. Okay, come back real fast. Oh, thank you. I do need. We can't see. Oh, thanks. Virgin pina colada or Coke or Red Bull. Yep, we're gonna come up with some fun things. So I need all the ideas, and you can't see it, and I will show you. Okay, and then I'm gonna go get water because you're taking care of me. Okay. Good call, Tion. All right, and now that it's done raining, I might have to take the Hoppy Puppy out for a walk after this. So Yeah, you heard me talking about you. Yeah, yep. You want to come up and say hi to everybody? Come on up. Okay, here's the hoppy puppy. He's a happy boy. He's bored. Normally he goes for a walk right now. He's like, what is that? What is that? Okay, you want to come up here? Okay. He likes to be wherever the action's at. Um, anyways, okay, so you can see it now. So I added the dry malt extract. That's all there is to it. You didn't miss a whole lot. Okay, so look at this, 16.5 pounds. Ooh. It's going to be an intense beer. But we achieved our darkness, our jet blackness right there. Um, and then remember, I told you our estimated original gravity. Okay, let me explain the gravity real quickly, and then we'll continue on. So it's not too dark. Remember, it said it could be dark brown or jet black. So right now it's pretty much jet black. And adding that malt extract, that powder, the dry malt extract, it didn't change the color at all. It didn't make it darker or lighter or anything like that. It's just literally adding more fermentable sugar to the beer so we can have increased alcohol. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so we talked about original gravity, and I said I would explain that. So original gravity, so let me just break it down in the simplest terms that I can, okay? So because those numbers probably don't mean anything to you. To me, it means something. But you'll notice that it says like 1.89. So like we go back, let me share this with you. So let me just explain this. So 1.89, right down here, you see my arrow. Okay, here we are. Estimated original gravity 1.89. Okay, and then we have this thing called final gravity right here, estimated to be 1.022. Okay, so when it comes to gravity, the lamest terms is this. Okay, when we use those grains to create our wort, which is what we boil and add hops to. It's not beer until we add the yeast and it goes through fermentation. Okay, before fermentation, before we add the yeast, it is wort, and that's all it is. Okay, now it's just that water is now full of sugar. Okay, so the more sugar content there is in that water, the higher the gravity. Okay, so we have this little dipstick, which is called a hydrometer. You put it in there. So since the sugars are more dense, it's going to cause that that hydrometer to be bob a little higher in the wort, opposed to when there's less sugar. Okay, so the more sugar, it's more dense. It causes that thing to bob a little bit higher. And the more sugar there is, the more potential alcohol there is. Okay, so the higher the original gravity, the more potential alcohol. The finishing gravity is after the beer is done fermenting and all those fermentable sugars are completely used up. That finishing gravity is what you're looking for to make sure it's done fermenting. Okay, so before you bottle it, you want to do another hydrometer reading, and you want that hydrometer to be lower in the beer this time around, and you want to make sure that that hydrometer reading is right around that point. And what that's telling you is that all the sugars that were in there from the beginning have now come down to whatever should be left. So remember, right now we haven't even touched the body. We haven't even looked at whether it's going to be a full body, medium body, or light body. Right now it's just a medium body because that's just the default for this program. So that's showing that there's still going to be some remaining sugars in the beer left over, which is why it's going to be that amount. So the gravity is more important for us as brewers to determine, one, alcohol content, and two, when it's done fermenting. Okay, and we want our numbers to be as close as possible to the original gravity as well as the finishing gravity, because the closer we are to those numbers, the more efficient our brewing is. So if it's 1.89, which is exactly what it's estimated at, that means my mash efficiency is baller shot caller. That means I did a dang good job. Ooh. And then when it's at the finishing gravity and it's right around that amount, then I'm like, sweet, it's fully fermented. It's good to go. It's safe to put in the bottle. Add some more sugar so we can add that CO2 to it, and then it's good to go. Because here's the thing. Remember, I told you earlier about the bottle bombs basically that I created. I didn't mean to create it, but it's just they were overcarbonated beers that when they got exposed to higher temperatures, the pressure was just too much and they exploded. Okay. It wasn't that they weren't done fermenting and then I added sugar. It wasn't that at all. It was fully done fermenting. It was all good. I just added too much sugar to the bottles when I bottled it. So then it was overcarbonated. It already had all that extra pressure in there. And then you add heat to it. And then the temperature causes that gas to expand, which is the CO2 gas, right? Expands. The pressure increases to a point where it explodes. And it's insanely powerful. It was kind of scary. Yep, or the ball is going to explode. So anyways, that's what the original gravity is. So for us, just let me show you again. We're looking at 1.89 original gravity. And again, it's just a number. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll drop off the 1.0 and we'll just call 8.9 and then it'll finish at 2.2. So let's check this out real fast. So we have, remember I said right now we have just medium body. So we're going to go down to single infusion. And if I change it to full body or light body, let's watch what happens to the finishing gravity. Let's go to light body. So remember, it's 1.022, which I think is because of the medium body. Let's go to light body and hit OK. Look at this. The original gravity down here is now 1.018. So it's gone down. That means there's even less sugar in there as before. So that's what we can change around. So if we were to go to full body, I'm going to guess it's going to be 1.025 or something like that. Close, 0.27. So there's with a full body beer, you have even more residual sugar left over. If you're interested in the science behind it, I could do a really simple stream on that as well to kind of simplify things. Anyways, okay, cool. So we have our grain bill. This is all the grains that are going to be in these are all the grains that are going to be in our beer. That's going to give us our alcohol and our color. Now it's time to add yeast and hops. Before I do that, let me come back. Okay, cool, no comments, sweet. Okay, so I have an abundance of Cascade hops still because of my parents. They gave me so many hops last year that it was bananas, and now they're a year old. So they still should be good, but the problem with using older hops is you start to lose their potency. So I wanted to use the Cascade hops because the Cascade hops are just really, really pleasant. But here we go. Let's type in Cascade so I can show you what's in there. Okay, so the Cascade hops normally have an alpha acid percent of 5.5%, give or take. Okay, depends on the year. And the alpha acid, so the higher this number, so right here we have a higher number. If it's a 5.5, it's going to be less bitter. But if we look down here, there's a 12% right here, or a 38%. That's going to make the beer extremely hoppy. Okay, super hoppy. The lower the number, the less hoppy. The higher the number, the more hoppy. Another benefit for alpha acid is the higher the alpha acid content, the more protected, I guess, is the best way of me saying it right now. The more protected the beer will be against bacteria, wild bacteria, and wild yeast, but more so bacteria, because there's a certain antiviral, antimicrobial, antibacterial property to hops. Okay. Anyways, that's why like bitter, like pale ale, like original India pale ales were super bitter because they added extra hops so it would be able to stay pretty much stay drinkable all the way to when it got to shore or got back to port. So over time, IPAs, really strong bitter beers, will lose their potency. So they would add extra hops to make it more potent so that by the time it got back to port, got back to England, it still had its bitterness. And it was able to not go bad along the journey. Okay, So our Cascade hops. Another thing too, we're looking at aroma and aroma and flavor. Okay, so aroma, we're looking at strong, spicy, floral, grapefruit character. Honestly, I don't really want to use these hops in this beer because I want this thing to be kind of bitter because this is a freaking Black Widow Stout. So let's not do that. So we can go through and find there's so many styles of hops. You have hops from Australia, Austria, Belgium, uh, China, okay, Czech Republic, France. French hops are actually really nice. Mistral hops and Talus hops are really freaking good. Which actually, I don't know if they have Talus hops for them. I might have to buy these earlier. But I have used Mistral and Talus before for an IPA, and it was probably one of the best IPAs I've ever made in my life. And I haven't been able to redo it because one, I haven't been able to find those hops again. And then we've got the good old German hops because Germans make really good hops and grains. Thank you, Germany. And but I really want to. I kind of want to use some U.S. hops. No offense to you, friends from Germany. Um, Here we go, U.S. So we want something that's bitter, but not too bitter. So we want something kind of light. That's super bitter. So Amarillo, that's more for IPAs, American style pale ales. Okay. What would be good for Callista? That's a good one. Passion. I don't really want that though. Cashmere. I just want something simple. Centennial. Clean bittering flavor. That might be something we'd like. Let's do Centennial. That sounds great. It says aroma and American ales and wheats. Stout is an ale. Let's do that. It's 10%. It's pretty bitter. We probably only need to use 1 ounce of that. Okay, why? Okay, we're going to do 1 ounce. All right, and it's still not bitter enough. So we could probably bump that up to 1.5 ounces maybe. Let's do 2 ounces. We're gonna make this a Black Widow ale. Okay, boom. So 51.2%. And if I wanted to, I can add a little bit of Cascade just to give it a little bit of one so I can use them, and two so I can add a little bit of aroma to it. Let's do this. We're gonna do not 60 minutes, but we're gonna do 15. That will be flavor. I want to, yeah, flavor. That should be okay. And then we'll do another round of this. Um, we're gonna duplicate this one, and we're gonna do 5 minutes. Nope, 1.0, and we'll do 5 minutes. Okay, cool. And that will be more of the the aroma. So you'll see that by adding these Cascade hops near the end of the boil, since they're lower percentage, it didn't change the IBUs very much. It brought it up to about 10, but we're still in the green, so that's good. And the nice thing about using the Cascade hops, one, it's using the hops that I already have, and they're probably losing their potency anyways. I need to get rid of them. And two, it's going to add a little bit of complexity to it that are pretty pleasant. So it's strong, spicy, floral, grapefruit character, which doesn't really necessarily sound like it goes well with a stout, but the last time I used these hops, um, they were really, really, really pleasant in my last stout that I made. So there we go. Okay, I'm gonna come back and check for comments. Okay, no comments. Good, awesome. I am going to take a quick break. I'll be right back, and then I promise probably 15 minutes more. I wanted to do what else did I want to do? Oh yeah. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna put this on intermission. I think that'll work. Okay, cool. So yeah, we had the Turkish Kebab join us, and he was the last follower. So that was kind of fun having somebody new. And then Mocha Moo Bear was our last subscriber. So that was kind of fun. So, anyways, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna take a quick break, brush up on my coffee. When I say brush up, I'm gonna heat it up again, and then I will be right back. Maybe the Hoppy Puppy will be a great um, performer for you. Go talk and stuff. I'll be right back. We're almost gonna go. I promise. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Okay, here we go. The last thing we're going to do. I know this is probably still too loud. Anyways, I'll just leave it down here so it's not as loud. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to choose our yeast. Okay. So one of the things I like to do for yeast is imperial yeast. We're going to use an imperial yeast. We got, let's see, resources. No, that's not what I want. Products. Here we go. We're going to do home brewing, explore yeast strains. I like this website. It's kind of nice. Okay, so let me make sure I'm showing you all what I'm doing. Okay, I'm not showing you anything. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, so this is Imperial Yeast, which is a yeast company out of Portland, Oregon. Um, I love using their yeast strains. So they do commercial yeast as well as homebrewing yeast, and so I just clicked on the homebrew yeast strains, and it's really, really great. So here you can choose beer style. So I can come in here and be like, oh, American ales, and it's just a filter, right? So it comes down, I move down, and I'm like, all right, cool. So these are the beers that I can choose, or the yeasts that I can choose that will match my American ale beer. So, for example, let's say there's one called the Darkness. That's what, you know what? Here we go. Ales. Let's go here. This will help us out. Darkness right here. So let's view this strain. So it says dry, high gravity, Irish. Um, it's a beautiful strain for stout, porter, brown, and amber ales. Darkness produces a unique character that matches up perfectly with roasted and caramel malts. This strain is alcohol tolerant, so don't hesitate to throw high gravity worts in right away. Okay, so remember, high gravity. Remember our gravity right here, 1.89. This is considered a high gravity. We can do higher, but I don't want to do any higher. Like this strain should be okay for 12% alcohol. So I mean, if we wanted to add this, we should. We should. Oh my gosh, we should. Why not? This is. Let's make this bananas. Let's do 2 pounds. Woo, doggy. 10. There we go. 10%. We're doing it. We're just gonna. This is a freaking Black Widow Stout, my friends. This is what we're gonna do. Okay. So again, beer styles down over here on the right side. So Irish dry stout, American barley wine. Medium haze, which doesn't really matter to us because it's a dark beer. You can't even see the haze. Um, we got negative, phenolic, off flavored, diastatic, negative. So phenolic is more. These are the flavors that you get from a yeast. Um, so phenols are off flavors, and what That's why it says phenolic off flavor. So that's like burnt Band-Aid, banana, uh, buttered popcorn, things like that. Nasty flavors that you don't want in your beer. I guess some people want some of those styles. Anyways, um, so we want to make sure that this stays within the temperature range right here, 62 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. It needs to stay in that temperature range so that we don't get those phenols. Okay, we don't want those off flavors. Now, some things that you can do to prevent off flavors is one, temperature control, and two, making sure you give the yeast a rest. And so diastatic, so a diacetyl rest is what we like to call it. And that allows the yeast, after it's done fermenting all the sugars, to go through and kind of clean up the beer itself and give it a more pleasant flavor. But here we see alcohol tolerance is 12%, so it can handle the high tolerance. And then we have attenuation. Okay, so attenuation is a really fancy word for yeast efficiency. Okay, so what that's saying is it says 71 to 75%. So it's saying during the fermentation, it should eat up 71 to 75% of all the sugars in that beer, give or take. Okay, so the higher the attenuation, the more sugars that are going to be used up, and it's going to be a more efficient ferment. And then the lower the attenuation, the lower the efficiency of the yeast. But most of the yeast that imperial yeast puts out is pretty has between 70 to 80% attenuation, so it's pretty good. And then you have flocculation. Lots of fancy words here. Flocculation is, so if you've been here for a while at my channel, you have seen me post photos on my Discord of the beer after it's in a healthy fermentation. Gets that massive krausen head on top, and that's just like dead yeast bodies, that's CO2 bubbles, and a whole bunch of other floaters from like hop particulate, grain particulate. It's all moving around and it's all sitting on top. Okay. Now, flocculation is the ability of that krausen to fall out, which means it gets reabsorbed into the beer, not necessarily into the beer, but it absorbs into the beer and falls out to the bottom of the beer. So I shouldn't be saying those two words together. So it doesn't absorb into the beer, it just falls into the beer all the way to the bottom. So with flocculation, if you have a medium or high flocculation, that means there's not going to be floaters at the top of the beer. It's going to be a pretty nice, clear head at the top, and all that stuff's going to fall to the bottom. Now, if it's a low flocculation, that means you're going to still have chunks of bubbles and things that are floating around at the top. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean that your beer is done or isn't done fermenting. It doesn't mean that your beer has gone bad. It just means that it just hasn't fallen out all the way. So that's where flocculation is. It's its ability when it's done fermenting for all of that stuff to fall out and sink to the bottom. And then again, temperature. I can't tell you all how important it is for temperature, but it's huge. Okay, so I think the darkness is what we want. Okay, so we're going to go back to our recipe, and we're going to add our yeast, and we're going to type in darkness right here. Boom. We're going to add it. We're just going to do one package. The great thing about imperial yeast, and what I really love about imperial yeast, is that their package of yeast has 200 billion cells. If you do white labs or mega yeast or Y yeast, those yeasts are really amazing. Like Y yeast has a much larger collection of yeast strains, and their yeast strains are really, really good. The only downside is Y yeast happens to have only 100 billion cells. It really isn't that big of a deal. It's not a make or break deal for me. Honestly, I like using Y yeast for a lot of them. And for my Mexican lager I used White Labs. And we did the Modelo. I think it was a Modelo, or yeah, it was the Modelo strain. Anyways, they are all great yeast. I'm not going to say use one over the other. I use all of them. So Omega, White Labs, Y yeast, Imperial yeast, they're all really, really good. The one reason I like Imperial yeast is it's 200 billion cells. So if you weren't going to do a yeast starter, Imperial yeast is great because you already start off with double the amount of yeast cells, which means it's going to be a quicker starting fermentation. It's going to be a more efficient fermentation. If you're using Y yeast or White Labs or a Mega yeast, you might want to do a yeast starter. I do a yeast starter for all of them, even with Imperial yeast, just because it pretty much doubles it gives you like a third more to double the amount of yeast cells, which again, faster fermentation, more efficient fermentation. So when I add this yeast, one thing I really wanted to show you guys is our estimated original gravity. For whatever reason, I don't think it's actually going to change anything, but it says 1.97. Oh, you know what? We added another pound of dry malt extract. That's why. That's why. So it's now higher, but we're at 9.8%. It's almost 10% alcohol. Woo, Black Widow. Okay, cool. So we've chosen our yeast, we've got our hops, and we've got our grains. Now we don't need to add anything else. Okay, so we're done. So that's our beer recipe. Um, can you write it down for me? Okay, write what during what? Okay, so which word, Tion? Was okay. So we have flocculation, um, and this is flocculation is the um, flocculation is the term for all the kreuzen at the top of the fermentation of the beer fermenting and its ability to fall to the bottom of the beer. It also helps to make the beer cleaner and clearer. And then you have attenuation, and um, that is the efficiency of the fermentation that yeast can do. So those are the two words. And you're welcome. Thanks for asking. Okay. So, anyways, that's our beer. So overall, we're looking at a 9.8% alcohol with a bitterness of 57. So it'll be pretty much medium bitterness. We're gonna have 17.5 pounds. Well, it'll be more like 15 pounds of grains. But then we have the 2 pounds of light malt extract. We got a jet black color. I feel like I should add a little bit of wheat to it to give it a uh, head retention, but honestly, it's not that important. It should be okay anyways. So I'm not going to add that. Now the question, and we'll just keep it medium body. Okay, I think overall this is good. So I'm going to save this so I don't save without closing, and I want to save as Black Widow Stout. Okay, cool. Why did it do it twice? Okay, sweet. All right, so that's our Black Widow Stout. And here is our recipe down here. And it shows us everything. And it shows us also of, it should show us how much water. So it gives it in quarts. Since I'm not British or European, I don't know quarts or anything that well. So I'm just going to have to figure out a way to put it into caps or gallons or whatever. But you can see that we're looking at a mash temperature of about 152 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're doing a mash out of 168 degrees Fahrenheit. So anyways, this is going to tell us everything that we need, and storage temperature is 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what we're looking for anyways. So that's that. So I'm going to close this out. We're going to bring this to an end. Yeah. Hey, you know what, Tion? Your English is amazing. I haven't heard you speak, but I'm sure you speak English just fine. Aber mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch und ja, auch mein Deutsch ist sehr hässlich. Hässlich. Yeah. Anyways, I gotta practice my German. I gotta practice speaking with y'all. Okay, so the last couple things I want to say before I say au revoir, goodbye, auf Wiedersehen. Before that, I wanted to give you guys a couple heads up. Okay, one, yesterday was my friend's wedding. Okay, what wedding reception? He got married in May, and he had a wedding reception not yesterday, 2 days ago on Sunday. And the beer, we had one of his buddies drive by my house, pick up the beer, and drive it all the way up to Oregon, and he's going to be driving back down to drop him back off on his way back to Colorado. So the beer made it all the way up, and which was awesome. and it was a great success. Supposedly, everybody loved it, and everybody was like, "Who made this? I want to have some more of this." Blah 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 blah. So who knows? It might mean more potential opportunity to brew beer for people in Oregon. But the beer turned out really, really well. Most people loved the IPA the most, but for people who weren't beer drinkers or wanted a lighter beer, they enjoyed the Mexican lager a lot as well. So the Mexican lager this time around, I added, I think was it 5 grams? I think it was 5 grams of lime peel to it to kind of give it that extra um, complexity to the beer, and I think it turned out really, really well. So we got really great reviews from the people who drank the beer, like really great reviews, stellar reviews. So I'm really, really happy about it, and so I think that's a good start. Which leads me to one other thing. So there's actually a potential of us being able to brew beer for a company here in Salt Lake City. It's a new company. They haven't opened yet. They'll open in October, and it's called Dangerous Pretzels. They make gourmet pretzels, and they are interested in having their own beer. Um, so one of my new goals, is to become the largest brewery that nobody knows about, which is great, calling us the Speakeasy Brewer. Um, and Yeah, we just brew beer for a bunch of businesses. But we'll start with Dangerous Pretzels potentially. I gave them a couple of my beers, and I'm going to be meeting with them in person to share the IPA and the German Pilsner with them to see if they like that. Um, so that's a potential avenue for us to expand our brewing capability, which would be really fun. So there's that. Last but not least, and then we are done, is this. I wanted to let y'all know because there's a couple of you guys who reached out to me asking if I had any merchandise, and the answer is yes. If you go to the Discord, I put it in the Discord. Um, I put the link. It's my Printify store, and so we don't have to worry about y'all giving me addresses or anything like that. It doesn't matter where you are in the world; they will print it near you, and they will send it to you. So if you want to support the channel and want to wear some merchandise or drink from some merchandise, because we have some pint glasses available. We have. I'll just show you actually. Let me just show you my Printify store. Boom. Oops. Print, Printify. Boom. Yes. I need to go to my store. So let's. Hey, Coda. Where's my store? My products. Hold on. I'm still figuring this whole thing. Visit my store. Coda, come here. Hey. No. Okay. So here's what we got right now. We've only got 4 things, but you probably can't even see it, can you? You can't see it, of course. All right, so here we go. So this is it. Check this out. I have a store. It's the Printify store. This link is in the Discord. So if you're interested in looking at this, um, basically we've got pint glasses, and we've got the Speakeasy Brewer T-shirt, the one that I wear. You've got that right there. And then this one I just played around with some anime style stuff, and it's me brewing beer. So anime steampunk Speakeasy Brew T-shirt. But yeah, so we got some pint glasses. The Brew Charity pint glass. I need to do a Brew Charity T-shirt as well. So just remember, with Brew Charity, there's a difference with Brew Charity and the Speakeasy Brewer. So the Speakeasy Brewer, I brew beer for Brew Charity, which is my other pet project. And Brew Charity's whole purpose is to use the beer that we brew here on Twitch, and we use that beer to raise money for local charities, which we did about a month ago. We raised $700 for local charities, which was awesome. And all of our neighbors and friends came for that. And what we're going to do with Black Widow Stout, we're going to do, I think, Black Widow Stout and another beer. but we're going to actually do host a cleanup day for the neighborhood and the park attached to our neighborhood. So we're going to basically put out an event, and everybody's going to go with trash bags, and we're just going to go clean up trash and clean up the neighborhood and the park, and just make it nice. And then we're going to come back and we're going to celebrate with beer. So Brew Charity, the whole purpose for Brew Charity, that pet project is to make positive change in my local community, and hopefully that'll expand and we'll have different variations of that around the US. And we're just going to use beer to motivate people to do good things. So the phrase or the mission statement is good beer, good people, good deeds. So that's Brew Charity. So if you buy a Brew Charity glass, and then there will be a Brew Charity T-shirt, whatever. If you do buy that, all the proceeds from that will go towards um, helping to uh, buy ingredients for beers that will then be used to um, do good things in my community, which is awesome. And then if you buy any of the Speakeasy Brewer stuff, that's going to go towards helping improve the stream and upgrade my equipment. So I'll get better cameras, lighting, mics, um, that kind of thing. And then for equipment, that'll be upgrading my equipment so I can brew more beer. Which again, the Speakeasy Brewer, all the beer we brew here will then go to Brew Charity. So that's the plan there. So if you're interested in buying any merchandise, that's the link. It's in the Discord. Go there. There's no pressure, by the way. I know I don't have any advertisements. I don't, you know, care if you give me any money at all. I just want you to be here. We're here to just have good friendship and talk about beer, brew beer, that kind of thing. But if you do want to support the channel, you can support it through the merchandise. I think there's bits that you can use, or I think there's tips, that kind of thing. All that stuff will go towards improving the channel. But if you're or subscriptions too, that kind of thing. Um, um, yeah. So yeah. Anyways, there's that whole thing. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's no pressure though. Just show up and enjoy it. And I saw what you said, Tion. So just so you know, again, I'm not saying this to talk you into buying anything. You don't have to. But Printify will find factories or printing companies in Europe, so to reduce the shipping cost. So if the shirt's like $20, it's $20 plus tax. That will cover the printing cost as well as the shipping. And I think in the EU, I think it said it was €9 for shipping, plus the cost of. So I only get a small amount of it anyways, but it's not that expensive. So as far as I understand, based on what I read on Printify, that's all you'd have to pay. So $20 US, which I think would probably be, what is it, 21.5 euros? I don't know. And that would plus tax, whatever the tax is over there. But that would cover shipping, printing, and then whatever residual is left, that's what I would get. So there's that. It's not more expensive than the shirt. So don't worry. I can even look it up for you if you want. But again, no pressure. Anyways, with that, I gotta go. I gotta eat. I gotta take Mr. Dog out for a walk before it starts raining again. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on. If you have any questions or want to see certain content here at the Speakeasy Brewer, jump on the Discord and throw it in there. Put it in the community. I have a suggestions page and I have a brainstorming page. The brainstorming page is just that's where you should put the content. Like say, hey, Austin, I want you to can we try making this beer one day, or can you do a video that's this or this, that kind of thing. Suggestions would also be like, hey, you need to work on your mic or get a better camera, or you need to have this beard style. Because we're gonna be shaving this beard here before too long. So the next time we stream, it's gonna be a brew day, and I'm gonna choose one of the beards. Okay, so if you have not sent a beard style that you want me to shave it down to, oh yeah, voting for the beard. Okay, let's do that real quick. I only have a couple. Okay, so let's do this real fast. While I've got you guys on here, screen capture. If you want to add a beard beard style that you want me to shave to, now's the time to do it. But here's the ones that we've got so far. Okay, we're gonna go to suggestions. So here we got this one. Is there any way to zoom in? No. Okay. So we've got the Triforce beard. Man, that looks awesome and horrible at the same time. Okay. So this is a recommendation from the Turkish kebab. Okay. So there's that one. This is one that I saw that I thought would be really interesting. It's horrible. For those of you who don't know Key and Peele, I highly recommend that you go on YouTube and type in Key and Peele Terry's and watch this video. If I do this beard style, I am not shaving my eyebrows. That's the only heads up there. And then Tion sent these two. We've got Wolverine, which still looks pretty awesome. And then we've also got this one, which is horrible. So there's that. If any of you, Rob, I see you're kind of lurking in the back. Yeah, you're lurking in the back. Join the Discord and put your beard recommendation on there. That's the one in the bottom. That's this one right here. Okay, so we'll call this beard option 1. This is beard option 2, beard option 3, and beard option 4. So what I want you all to do is type in the number of the beard that you want me to do, and that will be the beard that I wear for my next stream, for the whole stream, obviously. So remember, this is number 1. Type 1 if you want me to use this one. This is 2. Type 2 if you want me to look like Wolverine. Type 3 if you want me to look like Terry. And type 4 if you are a Zelda nerd like myself and you want me to have a Triforce beard. Okay? All right, so we've got 1 vote for the so far Tion wants this one. Okay? That's, that's not too bad. That's pretty doable. Nice clean shave around the neck and around the chin. And then I have this, it's kind of like a reverse German Orthodox beard, or German Baptist. It's almost like the German Baptist. Okay, all right, there's 2. All right, I know Swine Hunter, you're in the back. There's one more person who's lurking in the back. 1, 1, 1. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so there's that. You can shave it down when yeah, well, after Brew Day, it's going down to Babyface. Okay, cool. So Swine Hunter, Taylor, you're there, or whoever's the other viewer. There's 3 people here, and I have 2 people who are voting. Now's the time to vote. Is this really what you guys want me to look like? Oh man, I gotta get the water for my beard before I go out with this beard. Look at that. Okay, so just like imagine that. Okay, it's not too bad, Hold on. It could look pretty good. Yeah, right. Just do this. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's still pretty stylish. I think I can do that. Yeah, I like it. Okay. All right. You can try all of them. Start with 4. Oh, that's a great idea. Well, okay. I feel like I couldn't do the Terry if I do the mustache shave down here, but maybe I'll try all of them and I'll take photos of them all down to one. I'll do that because I could still do the Triforce down here. Okay, I like that. Tion, you're brilliant. You already know that. So we'll one is it. One is the beard we're gonna do. We're gonna do that one where it's this and this. Okay. So one is the winner, and we'll do the Triforce beard, and then we're gonna shave down to well, I don't know if I could do the Wolverine one, but we'll do that. We'll do the Triforce beard down to um down to the number one. I guess we'll just do that because I don't know if I could do all three of them. 4. So that, yeah, 4 is Triforce. 3, which is the Terry. 2, 1. Okay, we'll try something like that. We'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. Okay. Well, that's all I got for y'all. I got to get going because it's 11:30 here and it's a weekday and I need to get things going. Brew Puppy is ready to go play. So you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for jumping on. I'm so happy that we're doing this. We're going to be brewing again here very soon. Also, just put in Discord the next beer you want me to do other than the stout. I was thinking of doing, I don't remember what I was going to do. I was going to do another beer, but throw in your suggestions. Yeah, no worries. I have to go too. Just throw in your suggestions in Discord what beer I should do next after this stout, and we're gonna go with that. Okay. Anyways, I gotta go. You guys are awesome. Love y'all. Be adventurous, stay thirsty, speak easy. Bye.